outrage in Ferguson, Missouri today after police shot and killed an unarmed teenager Saturday afternoon in broad daylight. Here's what we know about the death of 18-year-old Michael Brown. After Brown was walking with another individual on a road near the Canfield Apartments in Ferguson, a northern suburb of St. Louis, Missouri. After an altercation, key elements of which are disputed by police, Brown was shot and killed by a police officer. Police do not dispute that a police officer who has not been publicly identified shot and killed Michael Brown. The police officer is on administrative leave pending an investigation. There is also no dispute that Michael Brown was unarmed. As for that altercation, an individual who says he was accompanying Michael Brown, Dorn Johnson, has said in multiple interviews that he was walking in the street with Brown when the police squad car pulled up. The officer said to get the F onto the sidewalk, he recounted. It was not but a minute from our destination and we would be off the street, Johnson said. Again, this is the man who says he was with Michael Brown prior to and during the altercation. Johnson told CBC News that after a pause, the officer reversed his car and the following ensued.
He pulled up on the side of us. He tried to thrust his door open, but we were so close to it that it ricocheted off us and it bounced back to him. And I guess that, got him a little upset. And at that time, he reached out the window. He didn't get out the car. He just reached his arm out the window and grabbed my friend around his neck and was trying to choke my friend. And he was trying to get away, and the officer then reached out and he grabbed his arm to pull him into the car. So now it's like the officer's pulling him inside the car and he's trying to pull away. And at no time the officer said that he was going to do anything until he pulled out his weapon. His weapon was drawn and he said, "I'll shoot you," or "I'm going to shoot." And in the same moment, the first shot went off. And we looked at him. He was shot and there was blood coming from him. And we took off running.
Johnson says that he himself ducked and hid, but that Brown kept running and the officer got out of the car.
His weapon was already drawn when he got out the car. He shot again, and once my friend felt that shot, he turned around and he put his hands in the air, and he started to get down, but the officer still approached with his weapon drawn, and he fired several more shots.
Various news accounts refer to multiple witnesses, many of those witnesses unnamed, but one who is willing to offer account on camera. Puget Crenshaw described the event this way.
I heard gunshots fired, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on? I gather all my things and look back out the window, and at this moment, he's running, he's chasing after Michael full forcefully down the street, and gunshots are being fired repeatedly as well. I went from that window to my balcony, where I saw Michael. He's running this way. He turns his body towards this way, hands in the air, being compliant. He gets shot in his face and chest and goes down and dies.
Police offered a different account, as described by St. Louis County Police Chief John Belmar.
And the officer had an encounter with two individuals, one of whom is Mr. Brown, who was walking down the road in Canfield Apartments. He spoke to the individuals about getting off of the street and perhaps taking the sidewalk. One of the individuals complied, the other did not. In fact, as the officer decided to get out of his car to continue the conversation, he was pushed back into the car, and there was a physical confrontation in that car where, in fact, there was a struggle over the officer's gun. We do know, for example, that there was one shot fired within the car, and then we're taking a look at the rest of the details of the investigation at this point to determine exactly what happened once the police officer exited the car.
As the FBI today announced its own investigation, many questions remain unanswered, including how many shots were fired and how many hit Michael Brown. In the wake of Brown's death, outrage, protests continue today in the St. Louis area for the third day running. Protesters chanting no justice, no peace. Many protests, including yesterday's, were marked by intense interactions with the police. And in some instances last night in Ferguson, rioting and looting erupted. Alongside the protest, community meetings continue to take place in the St. Louis area. A makeshift memorial has sprung up for Michael Brown and the family of the 18-year-old who is planning to begin college classes today. Called for justice, not violence.
The violence needs to stop. The support is all needed, but not the violence.
Joining me now is Dorn Johnson, who says he saw the shooting, and his attorney, Freeman Bosley Jr. Mr. Johnson, you say you're walking with Michael at that moment. Were there other people on the street that could have witnessed or corroborated your account? Because obviously the police are telling a very different story than what you and some other witnesses have said.
Yeah, at the moment, at the time where we were in the street, before the officer pulled all the way on the side of us, no, I did not see anyone. My eyes were not looking for anyone. My ears were open, just talking to my friend. So before the officer said his first words, no, I did not see anyone.
How quickly did this escalate? It sounds like from your account that it was a sort of casual comment made by a police officer for the two of you to get off the street, and it sounds like there was gunshots within, what, 60 seconds? What was the time frame of this encounter like?
The time frame was a little, just like you said, 60 seconds or less. It sped up so quickly, it got out of hands real quick. Like, it wasn't even a minute, like you said, 60 seconds.
Did Michael reach and struggle for the officer's gun as the police are saying he did?
That is incorrect, sir. He did not reach for a weapon at all. He did not reach for the officer's weapon at all.
And you were able to see this interaction?
Yes, sir, correct.
Were you scared in that moment?
Not scared yet, but more shocked at how the officer approached us. It's just more shocking than scared at that moment.
Mr. Buzzley, have you or your client, have you been approached by investigators? It seems like this is very key eyewitness testimony.
Well, what is interesting about this is that we have not, as a matter of fact, the NAACP, through Mr. Adolphus Pruitt, contacted the authorities and the police department yesterday to make us available and make Mr. Johnson available. And at that point, they said they had some other things going on. They did not want to interview Mr. Johnson at that time, and also wanted to indicate that Mr. Johnson ran away and was not really a person that witnessed everything that was going on. And of course, we know that is not correct.
Well, Mr. Johnson, is there any doubt that you were there with Michael at that moment?
Sir, I did not leave until the last shot was fired, until I confirmed that my friend was not moving and he was dead. That's when I took off running.
Is there the possibility, based on your account of how things went down, do you believe that, say, a dash camera from the police officer's video would show what happened in terms of how things were set up spatially?
No, the way that the officer approached us, if there was a dash cam on his car, all that it would have gotten is me and my friend walking in the street, and that's it.
Because the actual shots fired and Michael's death came when he was behind the police car. Am I correct?
His death came from behind the police car, but the initial shot, we were on the side at the driver door of the police car.
What was going through your head as you are now, you say, crouched behind a car watching a police officer chase your friend?
I'm fearing for my life at this moment, because at this time the first shot had already been fired and I noticed my friend had been shot. I've been in situations before where gunfire has let out, and I really don't take fond to guns. So I feared for my life. I was scared. I didn't know what to do, and shocked. My body really couldn't move at that moment.
How close were you and Michael?
I didn't fully have to extend my arm out to touch Michael or the officer. I was that close that I could touch both of them without even fully extending my arms.
Did Michael at any point strike out, lay hands on, assault the officer?
He did not initially assault the officer. I didn't see at no point in time while I was standing in the officer's driver door window where he touched the officer in any type of threatening way, not whatsoever.
How close friends were you and Michael? Were you tight?
We weren't so much as close friends childhood, but the time when I met him, because I had just moved over in the apartments, when I met him, we just became good friends.
And what kind of person was he?
He was a very cool person, quiet, calm, and gentle.
Doran Johnson and Freeman Buzzley Jr., his attorney. Thank you, gentlemen, both. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, the breadth of the protests in the community raised the question now, of course, of what is next, not just in this investigation, But in police community relations, meanwhile, St. Louis County Police Chief John Belmar says he supports the parallel FBI investigation. Of course, the shooting that we saw this weekend comes on the heels of several high-profile incidences of people being shot by or killed by police across the country. Of course, the death of Eric Garner, which was ruled a homicide here in New York City in Staten Island after he was first questioned by police for the charge of selling untaxed cigarettes. There has also been a whole lot of different information released out in the wake of the death of Michael Brown. First, accusations that he had been busted for shoplifting. So far, there has been no corroboration of that. A lot of outrage, too, about how he has been portrayed, both in the images that have been circulated about him and what people have done to try to presume that they knew what kind of person Michael was. Joining me now is MSNBC contributor Goldie Taylor, who is in Ferguson tonight. And Goldie, what are things like in Ferguson right now?
You know, the tensions are still fairly high, although not quite as high as last night. I hear that there is an incident at a nearby mall, but we're not certain that it's related to the recent unrest.
What is the context for what we are seeing in Ferguson County? It seems to me that there's some buildup that has happened before this incident happened over the weekend.
Well, I will tell you this, that North St. Louis County is comprised of dozens of small jurisdictions, tiny townships, 20,000 people or less, and that those tiny townships over the last 30 to 40 years were all white. But now those townships are increasingly more African American, as in Ferguson's case, some 85%. But if you look at the arrest rate, if you look at traffic stops, disproportionately they are African American, especially when you start to look at citations and arrests and outcomes. And so you're starting to see some real tensions begin to flare up between what seems to still be a fairly white leadership in terms of mayors and police chiefs and a black population. And there's a bit of distrust from both sides.
Is there confidence among folks there, and I think I know the answer to this, but I will ask it, about there being a genuine and thorough investigation? I mean, obviously, I cannot be the arbiter
Sure.
of the disputing accounts between the man that you just saw who says he was with Michael when he was shot and the police. Sure. If it is the case that what happened in the way that witnesses have described it, it seems very frankly, clearly a crime.
I spent a good deal of time with him today, but I've also spent a good deal of time with community leaders from the NAACP and other community groups here today, and I've been out here on the scene. I think that there is still a great deal of distrust from the community for this investigation. I think there was a bit of relief, though, that the FBI has come in and either taken over the investigation, or I think it's a little bit unclear as to whether they're running a parallel investigation. But we do know at the very least that there will be a Department of Justice monitor on this. I think that the level of skepticism for the Ferguson police even extends to the St. Louis County Police, unfortunately. And so I think those police departments and others have a lot of work to do to rebuild their ties, to rebuild their binds with these communities that they're sworn to serve and protect.
There is a sense, I mean, this is now that there have been a number of high-profile incidents in which young black men, unarmed, have been killed. Obviously, Trayvon Martin comes to mind. There's an incident recently in a Walmart store with a young man who was buying a toy weapon. We saw Eric Garner's death here in New York. And there is this sense, and you saw it just explode across social media this weekend, what do we have to do to say that we are worthy of respect and dignity and life?
You know, I think that really is the central question. I grew up here in St. Louis. It still remains one of the most segregated towns that I have run into in my lifetime. My parents, quite frankly, told my brothers how to deal with themselves, or at least attempt to deal with themselves when they were in all-white communities. But they weren't even safe in their own communities where there was higher, proportions of crime. This is about the value of life. When we look at investigation, when we look at how people are prosecuted, when we look at outcomes in terms of prison sentences, even when we look at the kind of media coverage that these deaths receive, they are quite different.
Yeah.
When you begin to look at race, at gender, at income. In our justice system, unfortunately, it has a color.
MSNBC contributor Goldie Taylor in Ferguson, Missouri tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
The unraveling of Iraq, that's ahead.